All right, let's talk about something that I think we can all relate to. That feeling of frustration, whether it's at home or at work, where you feel like you're trying so hard, you're putting in all this effort, but you're just not being heard. We're going to dig into why that happens and, more importantly, what you can actually do about it. It turns out a simple little shift can make all the difference.
So let me ask you this, and be honest. Do you ever feel like the work you do is just invisible? You're running around trying to keep everything afloat, but it feels like your partner, your kids, your team at work, they just don't see it. That feeling of being unseen, it's the root cause of so much conflict.
And this quote from ADHD coach Mike Leggett just nails it. It really gets to the heart of the matter. Most of the time, the argument isn't really about the dirty dishes or that missed deadline. No, it's about something way deeper. It's about that need to feel like you're on the same team, to feel seen and to feel supported.
I mean, picture this scenario, which was a real problem for one couple. He'd come home from work, see some clutter on the coffee table, and just feel instantly overwhelmed. Meanwhile, she had spent her day cleaning, but she was focused on stuff he never even noticed, like the dust bunnies behind the TV. So you've got two people, both working hard, but because their priorities were different, their efforts were totally invisible to each other. And that just led to this cycle of endless frustration.
So how in the world did they fix this? This deep-seated problem? Well, it wasn't through years of complicated couples therapy. The solution was almost unbelievably simple. Something you might even have in your house right now.
That was it. Seriously. First, they got a whiteboard for the fridge where they could both just jot down things that needed to get done. Second, they started asking a really simple question. Hey, I've got a minute to tidy up. Is there anything on the list that would make your day better if I tackled it? And third, and this is my favorite part, a hi-fi. A little moment to actually acknowledge the effort. This tiny little system, it changed everything for them.
Now here's where it gets really, really cool. This isn't just some cute life hack. This whole strategy works because it's baked into the science of how our brains actually function. So let's geek out for a minute and get into the science.
Okay, so it all comes down to this thing called cognitive load theory. The easiest way to think about your working memory is like your brain's RAM, or maybe a tiny little sticky note. It's the space you use for thinking about things right now. But here's the kicker. That space is incredibly, incredibly small. And when we try to jam too much stuff in there at once, it just crashes.
So how small are we talking? Well, most researchers agree that our working memory can only hold about 4 to 7, yeah, you heard that right, 4 to 7 pieces of information at one time. That's it. All of a sudden, it makes perfect sense why that long list of instructions you were just given seems to go in one ear and out the other, right? Now, our brains have a clever workaround for this. For things we've practiced a lot, we build these complex patterns, they're called schemas, and store them in our massive long-term memory. Think of a chess grandmaster. They don't see 32 separate pieces, they see familiar patterns. But for all the day-to-day stuff that we haven't mastered, we're stuck using that tiny, limited working memory. And that's the bottleneck. That's where communication just falls apart. And this is why just telling someone a list of things to do so often fails. That verbal instruction is what scientists call transient information. It's a fancy term that basically means it's here 1 second and poof, it's gone the next. Before your brain can even grab onto it and process it, something new comes along and pushes it right out. The instruction literally vanishes. No wonder it feels like you're talking to a brick wall sometimes. Okay, so that's the science. We get it. Our brains have a bottleneck. Now what? How do we actually use this information in our real lives, with our kids, with our partners, with our teams at work? Let's get practical and look at how to put this theory into action. The guiding principle here couldn't be simpler, especially for any brain that's easily distracted. Out of sight is out of mind. It's that simple. If you want something remembered, if you want it acted on, you have to get it out of that tiny working memory and put it somewhere physical, somewhere visible. In sight, in mind. For example, parenting expert Elizabeth Stitt has this fantastic 4-step method for helping kids transition from one thing to another, like from playing to getting ready for school. First, give a heads up, like a 5-minute warning. Then use an audio cue. A timer going off is perfect. Step 3 is to have them do something physical, like clap 3 times, to literally break their focus. And finally, you guide them to the next thing with a cheerful tone. See? Each step is designed to help manage that cognitive load. Or you could use a simple chore chart like this one. You just stick it somewhere everyone sees it, like on the fridge. And just like that, the to-do list is out of everyone's heads and in a shared, visible space.
It's not a parent nagging anymore, it's just the family's plan. Everyone can see it, everyone knows what's expected.
So let's just zoom out for a second. The whiteboard, the chart, the 4-step method, they're all just tools. The real secret, the big idea here, is about making the invisible visible. It's about fundamentally changing how we communicate. Because when you do this, something really amazing starts to happen. Effort is suddenly seen, which means it can be appreciated. That constant mental stress of trying to remember everything, it just goes away. You stop nagging and start working off a shared plan. And best of all, you get real cooperation instead of constant conflict, all because everyone's finally on the same page. Literally. And that is the number one thing to take away from all of this. The secret isn't the specific tool. It's not about the whiteboard or the app or the chart. The real secret is the power of externalizing information. It's the simple act of getting all those tasks and priorities out of our individual overloaded brains and into a shared space where we can actually see them and tackle them together. So I'll leave you with a question to think about. What invisible stress is floating around in your life right now? What unspoken expectation at home or what mental to-do list at work is causing all this friction? And more importantly, what simple tool could you use to make it visible, make it shared, and finally, make it manageable?